Hello and welcome back to Mate's Tottenham Blog and episode 3 of 4 transfer specials we're doing over the international break. I'm delighted today to be joined by Hollie and Charlie to talk about 2 rumours that have been circulating in the last 24 or so hours to do with Tottenham's interest in Sander Berge and Florian Thauvin. We're also going to talk about all the existing options we have: Harry Winks, Moussa Sissoko, Giovanni Lo Celso, Dele Alli, and talk about where their futures may lie. And then at the end, we're going to suggest some players we think Spurs can bring in to improve that midfield a little bit more. But before we do get into those rumours, let's introduce our guests. First of all, we've got Hollie. Thank you so much for your time today, Hollie, and how are you getting on?
Yeah, I'm good. Thanks for inviting me on. I always love coming on this channel and talking with you guys. And yeah, not too bad.
It's an absolute pleasure having you on. Thank you again. And Charlie, same to you. It's weird, 2 people here who are quite happy with international football at the moment. I can't say I'm in the same boat. But Charlie, how are you getting on?
Yeah, good as always, Matt. Good win for England there just a minute ago against Albania. But yeah, look, as always, Matt, I always enjoy coming on here, and thank you so much for inviting me on again.
Again, same to you, Charlie. It's always a pleasure, and thank you very much for your time. And let's not waste any more. Let's dive straight into things. And the first rumour with Spurs at the moment is coming from James Shields, who is a Sheffield United journalist. I've reached out to a few Sheffield United fans and YouTubers, and they've said he is the holy grail for them. He is their version of Alistair Gold, and he has said that Tottenham and Arsenal are both interested in their Norwegian midfielder Sander Berge, but they may hold out for a £35 million fee. He's a very, very good player. And before we do get the opinion of Hollie and Charlie, I spoke with Hal from Sheffield United way earlier in the season before we did play Sheffield United, and we had a bit of a discussion on Sander Berge. So let's listen in what he had to say. I think one area where your scouting team and the team buying players certainly did a very good job was Sander Berge, who is an extremely good player, and the fact that he looks as good as he does in a team that's or at least even towards the tail end of last season, a team that wasn't performing as well, I think just goes to show the level of quality that he does have. How happy are you to have someone like Berge in your team?
He's a really interesting one because he's obviously class. I mean, he's absolutely class. He oozes class. He's injured at the moment, and he'll be out probably for the rest of the season, and that's massive. Yeah, well, maybe March he might come back. There's certainly inklings that he could come back in March, but the injury was so severe that you certainly don't want to rush him. And of course, if he's back in March, he's going to get training on the grass, and then he's got to get back up to match fitness. And you're thinking, maybe there'll be a delay in the season. I wouldn't be against that. In fact, really, I'd like the whole season to be null and void. I think that would be fantastic. But Sander Berge is a good player, and this is going to be tin hat time for a lot of Blades fans. We look better without him. Dare I say that?
Okay.
So he came into our team sort of January, and our form kind of dipped after we signed him. It's a coincidence, I'm sure, because he's brilliant. He doesn't put a foot wrong, and he tries so hard. He gives 100% every game. That's all you want as a fan, isn't it? You just want to see players trying, and he does. And he's got so much. He can tackle, he can shoot, he can pass, he can cross set pieces, good in the air. He's got skill. Takes it beautifully down on his chest. He's got a great song. There's everything about the man that you would like. But really, if I'm being honest, our season and our form has sort of taken a nosedive literally since we signed him. We had a few good results with Sander in, and as I say, it's not his fault. It is a coincidence. But we've also picked up our wins this season without him.
So a bit of a weird one there on Berge, that the former Sheffield United has dipped since he came in, but Hal definitely waxing lyrical there about the player. And Hollie, we'll come to you first. One thing I want to touch on what he said is he'll give you 100%, and that's all you can ever want as a fan. It's kind of all Spurs fans.
Yeah, I mean, it's something we see with Højbjerg.
Yeah, exactly. How important do you think that is, that player having that heart and the desire to just give his all for the club?
I mean, we haven't seen it in recent weeks. Let's put it that way. There's been a few players that I feel haven't played with pride with that badge. And if there's someone coming in that's potentially got that same ethos, I'm all for it. But again, I mean, it's whether Levy will pay that money, whether that's really the type of player we need. I mean, just touching slightly on Skipp, if Skipp does decide to come back, do we really need another defensive midfielder? I think that's another kind of thing you need to look at. But yeah, I'm all for it. If the man plays with pride on the shirt, I'm all for it. Go for it.
Absolutely. I think every Spurs fan would agree with you there. But like another thing that he does have is the quality. And it was a bit of a surprise, I suppose, when he did join Sheffield United last summer, because there were a lot of European teams who were in looking for him. And Charlie, the quality that player has is for the position Sheffield United are in right now. He's way above their level. And I think a move for him this summer is somewhat likely. Would you take him at Spurs for 35 million? Can you hear me, Charlie?
It's a weird one, really, because obviously Sander Berge. I remember, I can hear you lagged a bit there, but I can hear you now. But yeah, I was saying that I remember him scoring against us last season, when we lost to them 3-1 at Bramall Lane. And wait, can you hear me, Matt? Is my volume working?
Yeah, I can hear you. I think my connection.
I was just saying that. Okay, sorry for a bit of delay there. But yeah, he scored against us last season, I can remember, when we lost at their ground. Obviously, when they had a great season there last season. But look, Sander Berge, he looks a decent player from what I've seen of him. He's sort of a player with he's a player I haven't seen a lot of personally, but from the flashes I've seen of him, he does look a decent player. For 35 million, would I take him? Probably not for 35 million, but for maybe because they're going down, Sheffield United, maybe we could probably get him for a lot cheaper than that. Let's be honest, because of their relegation, inevitable relegation this season. But look, for 35 million, I'm not sure. Obviously, if we can get him for cheaper, I'd probably take him. I would, because as the Sheffield United fan channel said, always gives 100%, has a bit of quality about him as well. So look, I think he'd definitely be sort of a good replacement for Sissoko and Winks. Maybe if both of them were to move on, which fingers crossed they do move on, because we really do need to get them out of the club. So I think he'd definitely be a good replacement for them too if they do move on. That's how I see it.
Yeah, I think 6 minutes before your first Harry Winks day is probably a new record for you, Charlie. But look, we'll touch on the two of them a little bit later. Fen here says, would Sander Berge start for you? For me, I don't think he'd be coming in as a starter, because look, I do think the future of our midfield, at least in the next couple of seasons, is Højbjerg and Ndombele. But he's that player who could come in on a Thursday night if we do get Europa League next season. I think top four is gone. He can play those cup games, and he can just come in and offer a bit of kind of solidity in the middle of the park if you do need it towards the end of a game or something like that. But for me, I think £35 million is probably a bit more than I would like to pay for him. But if that's the current market, if that's the money we do have to play for a quality player, I wouldn't be unhappy, I suppose, if we did sign him. And look, as Halde was touching on the injury that he does have, he hasn't actually played since December yet. He's been in London receiving specialist treatment recently. He actually did link up with the Norwegian national team, but of course that will develop its way throughout to the rest of the season. And another player, as we said, that Spurs are linked with is coming from various sources around Europe, and that is Florian Thauvin, the attacking midfielder from Marseille, who was out of contract at the end of the season. Tottenham are looking to bring him in on a free transfer. So I think that the general feeling is typical Daniel Levy trying to get a player at the end of his contract, get him as cheap as we possibly can. He has played in the Premier League before. He joined Newcastle in 2015, only played 13 times for them. In his time at Newcastle, he was loaned to Marseille twice and then eventually sold to them. He's having a decent season this year, 29 appearances, 8 goals and 7 assists. But Hollie, the key thing that's attracted me to Florian Thauvin is he is apparently a set-piece specialist. How important would that be for us, and how much are we missing, say, like prime Christian Eriksen and someone who can whip a dead ball in?
I mean, we've got Harry Kane trying to take free kicks at the moment. I mean, we saw it tonight in the England game. It's not going to happen. And sadly, we haven't seen that oozing class from Bale either. So don't get me wrong. I think we're lacking a free kick master, so to speak. But again, it's like you said, it's a Daniel Levy thing. Like if he came to Newcastle and he didn't really get much game time, went back the way he came on loan, it kind of shows to me that it's just going to be a squad player that hasn't really got a lot of quality. And that's something I think we have a lot of this season. We have good squad depth, but is the quality quite there? So for me, I'd kind of stay clear, really.
Yeah, it's an interesting point you make there about him being a squad player, because looking at he's made 29 appearances this season for Marseille, as I said, 26 starts, 3 sub appearances. He's played in right mid, right wing, right striker, centre forward and centre mid. So he's almost a utility player. They're kind of filling in wherever he is needed. And look, at 28 years of age, he's not going to be a player who could have a lengthy future at Spurs or anything like that. And as Simon here says, Leicester want him as well. Leicester have apparently offered him a pre-contract under the Bosman ruling to sign him in the summer. So if this is a deal Spurs do want to get done, I think we have to kind of put our skates out. I think Charlie's having connection issues here. There's 2 Charlies. I don't know how that's happened. We'll take that one out. Charlie, what are your thoughts on Florian Thauvin potentially on a free transfer?
Yeah, look, first of all, I do apologise for that. Just my thing completely lagged out. No clue why. But look, I'm back now. But yeah, look, Thauvin, I'm not 100% sure on him, because he was, from when he did play for Newcastle, the Premier League didn't really suit him from what I saw of him, because I saw a bit of him for Newcastle when he did play for them, and I'm not sure. Maybe on a free he'd be a decent deal, to be honest, on it, because look, obviously not paying a transfer fee there, something classic Levy likes to do there. But look, as you said earlier on, set piece specialist. Maybe he could be a creative player that we're missing in our team. You never know. But look, maybe on a free, I guess you could say. Wait, do you know how old he is, Matt?
He's 28.
28. I'm not sure. I was going to say maybe if he was a bit younger, it might be worth a punt. But for me, I'm not sure on Thauvin, to be honest. Maybe it's worth a punt on a free. You never know.
Yeah, Jamie here says, how much does Thauvin earn a week? Wages could be a problem. I'm not entirely sure how much he's on, but in the French league, I doubt it's anything too exorbitant unless he's with the likes of PSG, which he's of course not. I think it could be one of those that do come down to wages, and we could have a lot of those freed up next season when Gareth Bale does move on. And as you said, Charlie, in terms of creativity and stuff like that, he's known for just looking at who scored, his key passes, his finishing, and his headed attempts. He's a counter-attacking threat. He likes to cut inside. So he is kind of a player who would fit into our team, quick on the break. He's able to score goals. He's able to create goals as well. And I don't think it's the best option for us. We're going to talk about other potential incomings a bit later in the stream. But as a backup, perhaps he could be a good one to kind of have there if things don't go to plan. But in terms of being our first choice, I don't think that is something any Spurs fan would really be too keen on. But now going into the players that we have in place at the club, and we're going to start with Harry Winks. There's been talk from Alistair Gold today about the future of this man. He said Harry Winks has been unhappy with his game time at Tottenham this season, and the return of Oliver Skipp in the summer will bring another homegrown player into the ranks and allow another to leave. We talk about Oliver Skipp in a second, but on the point of Harry Winks, I think, Hollie, we have to come to you first on him. Do you think he's going to be at Spurs next season?
No. And to be honest with you, although I did rate him when he came through the ranks, and the fact that he had that amazing game against Real Madrid, for him, he's just kind of fallen off a cliff. It's like he's fallen off the skywalk at Tottenham and he's never returned back. I don't know what's happened to him. I think with him, it's confidence. And I think obviously he's transitioned from Pochettino, which was that father figure, to Jose, who pretty much tells you how it is. And if you're not performing, his confidence is going to get knocked. And he just tries too hard at the minute. And I think that's the reason why he just looks a mess. I mean, his touch is off. He can't seem to play a pass. We all know the joke where he passes the ball backwards, sideways, and never really forward. Just for me, he's not good enough. And if we're able to maybe do a deal in somewhat what we did with Kyle Walker-Peters, I mean, I'm all for it, because like you said, if Skipp does come back and Winks goes the other way, I'd be upset, obviously, because obviously the little man behind me, but it is what it is at the end of the day. You can't be sentimental. The man isn't good enough. He needs to go.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. And we were talking a bit before the stream about this, and he is a player who has shown fantastic quality in the past. You know, look at those performances against Real Madrid in the Champions League and some performances in the Premier League as well. He was for a time a very important player in our team, and I think he was expected to be a long-term midfielder for Spurs. There was talk of him potentially being the Steven Gerrard of Tottenham before that injury he picked up against Burnley a couple of years back. Charlie, look, I know you're not the biggest fan of Harry Winks, but do you think his time at Spurs is up?
It's time to go. Play the clip of Claude, because that pretty much sums it all up. But yeah, look. First of all, it's not for me. The thing that annoys me about him, it's not even just his footballing ability; it's his attitude this season, which I think has absolutely stunk. You saw the comments he came out with in the press saying that he wants to get in the England squad for the Euros. Well, if you're going to get in the England squad, you should be focusing on getting on the Tottenham squad first, the club that you're contracted to. Like, seriously, the guy's attitude has been a huge problem this season. I think he thinks he's better than he is. I think and that's not just him by any means. That's a lot of players that we've got in our team, which are big problems. He thinks he's better just because he played in that Champions League final. He's not good enough whatsoever. As I said, whenever he plays, I've been saying this for so long now, whenever he plays, we get completely overrun in midfield. No physicality, no pace, no skill, just nothing. He just offers absolutely nothing to this team. I genuinely, I'd struggle to find anyone that can argue against what he offers, because I don't see a single thing he offers, and it's really frustrating because if you look at the coincidence, right, his best performances this season have come against like championship teams. I think Stoke and Wickham were probably his two best performances this season. So I think that's pretty much a coincidence of what his level is. As I said, at the end of the day, we got Skipp coming back. Skipp is a brilliant player. I love Skipp personally. I think he's going to be a brilliant player for us, because from what I've seen of him at Norwich, he looks like he's developing into a proper defensive midfielder. And I'm sure we're going to come to Skipp in a minute, but on Winks, yeah, he's got to go. Simple. Him and Sissoko have to be the first out the door in the summer. I'm sick to death of players like that playing for for our great club. I am sick of it because they let us down in the big moments. You saw against Zagreb, he was probably arguably everyone was terrible that day, but he was definitely a big part to why we just got completely overrun in that game, completely physically bossed. And as Mourinho described it after, we lost on effort. And so look, the thing is with Winks, it's not just as I said, it's not just his footballing ability, it's his mentality, which I think is a big problem. And for me, we can't have passengers like that in our squad if we're going to go to the next level. And it's simple. It really is simple. If we want to compete for the big trophies, people like him need to go as soon as possible.
Scathing analysis there from Charlie, but look, I do agree with a lot of what you said there. Hollie, do you think Harry Winks has been a victim of the change of management at the club? You've spoken a bit about the kind of the man management difference between Pochettino and Mourinho, but also in terms of the system that we play, because for me, where Harry Winks was at his best was sitting kind of behind the attacks and being that metronome, keeping things ticking over. And look, even when he did pass it sideways, it was kind of switching the attack and trying to catch them, the opposition before they got out. But do you think the Jose Mourinho is a reason that Winks could be leaving? Not in a damning way to him, but just the style of everything.
I don't want to say it's an excuse, but I feel like you've got to step it up, and Winks is just kind of, he hasn't. And like Charlie said, he's just been a bit of a passenger, and it is really frustrating because, like you said, I mean, under those Poch days at the start, you really thought to yourself, he's probably going to be here for a long time, and I don't know, it's just depleted. And maybe it is because Poch was nicey, shall we say. We all kind of knew Poch was kind of like a friend to all the players, and I think Jose has that mentality of, no, I'm your boss, this is what we need to do. And I don't think he's really coped with it. Like we said, people in the comments have said he's a nice boy, and he is a nice boy. I don't think he's great with criticism, and it's just sad to see. But the thing is, at the end of the day, you can't be sentimental with these players. If he's not good enough, he's not up to the task, and if he's not able to get under what Jose wants or what Jose's trying to deliver, then for me, Jose's been there, done it. Harry Winks, sadly, hasn't really done anything, if we're going to be brutally honest. So if you can't get under what the manager wants from you, then so be it, you need to go. So, yeah, it's a tough one, and it's sad to see, but for me, it's just got to go now. Yeah,
I think I agree with you there on that one. And Charlie, in terms of where he could potentially go, Alistair Gold was also saying Spurs think Valencia may potentially come in with a big offer for him in the summer. Now, look, in January, Valencia were interested in bringing him on loan. Nothing really came to fruition in that one. I think the Spurs essentially needed the numbers in midfield going into the latter stages of the season. But, again, we were talking just before the stream, and you were talking about how against Real Madrid, Harry Winks did look very good playing against that kind of Spanish style. Do you think if he did go to Valencia and did go to Spain, that he could actually become a successful midfielder?
I think if he was to move to La Liga, I think he would look better in that league, that's for sure. I do think that because of the way he is. The La Liga we know isn't the most physical league at all. As I said before the stream, you're allowed a lot more time on the ball there. In the Premier League, you know how intense it can be. I think it would suit him, La Liga. I do. I think playing for a club like Valencia, with all due respect, that's probably his level, and probably the type of league the only league for me that suits him, really. Maybe Liga, other leagues like that, but I think, I can definitely see him moving to a Spanish team, that's for sure. Because as I said, he suits the way a lot of them want to play, but at the end of the day, he's just not good enough for us, as I said. And look, the Madrid game. Look, there's no two ways about it. He did play well in that game. However, I think as I said off stream, he did look a bit better than what he was because of that reason. And the Spanish teams, you're allowed a bit more time on the ball, a bit more freedom, less intensity. I think that's what made him look better, I feel, in those games. Not to be, I know I sound very, very harsh here, but I think rightly so, because for me, that's like one good performance in 50 or something, which simply, I know it was against Madrid, but it's still only one good performance in about 50. And if you're playing at the top level, you need to be more consistent. And he's he's not even inconsistent. He's just complete crap. Like that's the thing. Like we've seen many inconsistent players over the years, but the problem is he's not even that, as I said. So, yeah, look, I can definitely see him moving to Spain. We did see the Valencia interest in January, so maybe they could come back in, and hopefully we can get some much needed transfer funds in there to hopefully reinvest elsewhere.
Yeah, look, in terms of replacements for him, we will touch on Oliver Skipp in a second. But Paul Markey here comes in with the €5 super chat. Paul, thank you very, very much for that. It is massively appreciated. If anyone else, if you want to guarantee your questions are answered or your comments discussed, please do put in a super chat. It's a fantastic way to support the channel. And like I said, we'll always get to your comment. Paul says, unless a player also meets the standards of the other top four contenders, there's no point considering him. And look, that's a very good point. We need to be I wouldn't say there's a specific level that Spurs need to be at, because if every other team is at a higher level, there's no point in being there. So we need to be better than the other teams that we're competing against. And look, if that's on standard Berge Florian Thauvin, I'm not sure that is quite the same that level that we need to be at. And the same with Winks, Sissoko, and maybe even Oliver Skipp, who we will get on to now. And Charlie, we'll come to you first in this one, because I know you're a massive fan of Skipp. I think for me, the thing that sums up the feeling among the Spurs fan base is whenever Norwich do a man of the match poll on Twitter, Spurs fans hijack it, and Oliver Skipp wins it every single time.
Yeah.
He's the perfect Spurs player, and he's been in our first team in the past. Injuries kind of got him out of there. But how impressed have you been with him at Norwich this season?
Yeah, it's an interesting one there, because I'm a Tottenham fan, not a Norwich fan. However, I have been following Norwich a bit more this season, just because obviously our player Skipp is there on loan, and I've been so impressed with him. You've seen, I haven't watched every game, but I've watched the odd Championship game when they're on Sky and stuff, and I've been impressed with him every time I've seen him. I've seen all the highlights as well, the video clips as well. I've seen all the Norwich fans as well. They rave about him all the time. After every game, if you go on Norwich Twitter, they're always talking about how good Skipp is, honestly, and it's just fantastic to see. And I've said this all along, and I've had a feeling about this for a long time now. I think this guy Skipp, he has a much higher ceiling than Winks, and I saw that pretty much when he first broke into the team. I could definitely see a player in him, a proper player a proper guy that can develop into a proper top class defensive midfielder, which obviously we're going to need now, because obviously we've seen the struggles we've had this season with obviously overplaying Pierre-Emile Højbjerg, which has been a problem for us, because we've seen he's tired over the last few games. So I think having another player there will definitely be another option for us. Obviously, if we are in like Europa League next season, he'll be playing all those group stage games there. So it will definitely be good for him to get some European experience. So look, I'm really excited for Skipp to come back. I really am. Proper, as I said, one of our own as well, which makes the whole situation even better. So yeah, definitely looking forward to him coming back. And as you said there, Matt, we've seen him in the first team before. We saw him I think some people forget this. We saw him. I remember Poch actually gave him a run of games in the 18-19 season. I remember when we played, I think, Leicester at Wembley, I think as well, Burnley at home at Wembley as well. Poch kind of gave him a run of games, and I thought he looked quite good. But I think this season he's just taken his game to another level, and he's bulked up a lot. He really has gained a lot of physical strength. So look, I'm so excited to see him next season. I do believe he's going to be a massive part of our first team next season.
Yeah, I think he does have the chance to do that. What's impressed me most with his time at Norwich this season, he's become more than that, just kind of that midfield enforcer. He's been really good with his ball progression. He's getting a few assists, and he's actually kind of being that transition man for Norwich, which is something at times we do lack, but it's something we haven't really seen from him in his game before. Before we get to Hollie in this, Fen here says, can we get to 50 likes, everyone? There's 100 people watching right now and only 27 likes, so please do smash that like button and see if we can get to 50 as quickly as possible. But Hollie, I think the big question for me on this one is, if we do bring Oliver Skipp back into the first team setup next season, will he have game time? Will he become that first player in there? And if he doesn't, do you think we'd run the risk of hindering his development if he were to be sitting on the bench for Spurs again?
Yeah, this is a thing, and it's really conflicting me, because I don't want to be too negative on it, but the likes of Skipp at the moment at Norwich, he's seen as a god. There's no doubt about it. And like we just touched on, we all go over there and make sure that we're clicking the like for him to get the man of the match. So it's difficult with the likes of Skipp. If Norwich get promoted, is he going to want to sit on the bench if a dynamic of him and Højbjerg playing at the same time isn't going to be a thing? Now, if it is going to be a thing, I could see him coming back to Spurs. But if he's offered to sit on the bench when he could be playing first team football for Norwich, it's a whole different ball game. I mean, if Norwich stay down and don't get promoted, I could see him coming back to Spurs to maybe sit on the bench. I don't know. It's really difficult. It's all dependent, maybe, I think, on whether Norwich go up or they stay where they are, really.
Yeah, I completely agree with you on that one. I think if Norwich did come up and there was the kind of the feeling that he may not be in that team, I can't really see him picking anything other than going back to Norwich, getting another season of first team football under his belt, trying to keep them up, and then potentially coming into the Spurs setup. But like you said, if they stay down in the Championship, I think it'd be difficult for him to kind of turn down the opportunity, I suppose, to be in and around that first team setup with Spurs. And look, as we've seen this season, there's been a lot of rotation. Players have been given chances, and it's Jose Mourinho, kind of contrary to his reputation, isn't reluctant to give young players their chances. But Liam here says this Skipp hype needs to be reined in a little. Great player, but I'm sure we had this excitement for Ali, Winks, etc. He needs a few seasons under his belt, and that's I suppose the perfect segue to get into the latest story on Dele Alli, which again came from Alistair Gold. He said Dele Alli is frustrated. Tottenham will weigh up any big offers that come in during the summer and perhaps be tempted by a lucrative loan deal for a player with a contract until 2024. Hollie, what are your thoughts on Dele Alli?
Oh, it's difficult, isn't it? Because we all know he's got that flair about him, and maybe towards the end of the season it's something we need. But the fact that he's just not really getting a sniff kind of highlights the fact that he's not really putting the work in, I feel, sadly. And I think with Dele, it's like if his head's not fully in it, he's not going to bother. And I think it's a real missed opportunity that in the January transfer window, we never really chose to take up on that loan straight away, maybe to PSG, because again, we're so reactive rather than, I can't think of the word, what's it? Preactive, I can't think of the word. Proactive, that's the word. We're always on the back foot all the time. To think if he was sent out in January, he would have got all that game time, hopefully under Poch at PSG. He would have been right in that shop window to come in the summer and be like, if we did want to keep him in our plans, he's played some football. And if he wasn't, he's been in the shop window for all that time. Again, I just think it's a missed opportunity. If Dele's not in it, I would like to see him go out on loan. I think it's the only way, because I know from a Tottenham perspective, if we'd sold him, he'd have liked whatever team he went to next. So it's a difficult one. For me, it would have to be a loan, because you can all see his head's not in it at the moment.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've been a massive defender of Dele Alli. I think even when those rumours were there about him going to PSG in January, I wanted it to happen, for him to go there in a 6-month loan deal and kind of get some confidence back. But then the second they appointed Mauricio Pochettino, I realised that would probably be the worst thing for us in the world if he did go there and spend 6 months with Pochettino, having been in that environment in which he flourished in the past, to then come back into this environment that seems to be kind of toxic for him, with Jose Mourinho not being the best man manager in the world, or I suppose having a different kind of man managing style to Mauricio Pochettino. And Charlie, I'll put the same question to you that I put to Hollie about Harry Winks. Do you think Dele Alli has just been a casualty of the new managerial change?
I think with Dele, I think it's a bit of both. I think he has to look at himself as well, because at the end of the day, it's been 3 years now. Even people say the whole Mourinho thing, but even on the Poch, this was happening. His sort of massive drop off in performances. I think some people forget that. I think people have short memories, and people need to remember on the Poch, this was happening as well. And yes, he had that sort of bounce under Jose at the start when he sort of first came in. He had a couple of goals here and there in the first few games. But it's just like, as we saw in the documentary, Mourinho described his training as lazy. And I think this season, I said at the start of the season, was going to be a massive season for Dele. And I really wanted it to work out this season. I really did, because I loved watching the old Dele Alli. I really did. I thought he was a phenomenal player, as we all know. So, but unfortunately, I think it's just got to a point now where it's just time to move on. It's just, I hate saying it because of all the good memories he's given us and what a brilliant player he's been. But unfortunately, I think it's just time to go, because as I said, it's been 3 or 4 years now. There's no indication whatsoever that things are going to start turning around for him. And I think for him personally, I feel he needs a new challenge. I feel like he's sort of gone a bit stale at Tottenham. I just feel he needs something fresh, something new to hopefully rejuvenate his career. So I think it's probably best for all parties to part ways. And as well, I think he's probably our most sellable asset that we're probably looking to sell in the summer, and he could bring in some much needed funds for other positions in the squad. So look, Dele, of course, we love the old one, but unfortunately, I just think it's time to move on from that.
Yeah, and it's interesting you bring up there about Ali kind of being our most sellable asset, because another thing that Alistair Gold did say today was Spurs still are in a position where we need to sell players to bring new ones in. And I think he used the quote, there could be some painful decisions made with regards to which players leave. And look, that could mean the likes of Son, Kane, one of them potentially being moved on for financial reasons, or for me, I think it means more along the lines of Winks, Ali, those players who've kind of been with us for so long, were at some time like a trademark of our team, and genuine seem to be Spurs fans. I think those are the type of players that could be moving on. And Dele Alli, as much as I love him, I think maybe a loan deal, give him another season to try and turn things around. But after that, if it hasn't happened, I think we need to just cut our losses on him and kind of accept that he will be gone. Wayne Bonner here with the £2 super chat. Wayne, as always, thank you so much. Really appreciate that. Says for Ali, see Eriksen at the end of his time. So comparing that to when Christian Eriksen kind of down tools, his attitude kind of went and all that. And maybe we are in a similar position with two players who really did shine together, perhaps having a very similar end to their times at Tottenham Hotspur. Charlie, look, I know you do need to head off now. So before you do go, do you want to give us a quick plug for your channel?
Yeah, so of course, CharlieTHFC on YouTube. I'll be back hopefully at the end of the season. I'm just having to sort a few problems out for the foreseeable future, but we should be back hopefully. But yeah, look, just the name tag as it says there, CharlieTHFC, and yeah, similar Spurs content to Matt. Hopefully, I'll be back very soon. But yeah, look, as always, thank you so much for having me on your channel as always, Matt.
Yeah, thank you very much, Charlie. I appreciate it as always. Thanks for your time. Everyone, I highly recommend you go over there and check out Charlie's channel. But for now, one player, Hollie, I want to talk about is Moussa Sissoko, who was so good at the beginning of the season and has just slowly regressed to a player that kind of no one wants to see at the club. And for me, the main thing you could always say about him is he would run for every second of every game for the badge. But that's something that has gone lately. Is he another player that you think could be on his way out in the summer?
I think so. The fact that we didn't really want him to sign in the first place, obviously that season he had when he joined from Newcastle wasn't great. And we're kind of seeing that happen again. I think the only time he's really worked in his squad is when he's been covering for Serge Aurier. Because when he did that, it was great. It allowed Serge Aurier to bomb on, and I wasn't dreading the fact that Serge would come back and do something silly because Sissoko was there covering him. So, yeah, it's not great, but we're seeing this throughout the squad. I don't know what it is at the moment. They don't seem motivated. They don't seem like they want to be there. And for me, again, I think Sissoko is one of these players that folds under criticism and especially confidence. When he's not getting those run of games, you kind of see that dip of form go. And I think at the moment with Tottenham, you kind of need to install rotation because of all the competitions we were in. I mean, sadly, we're at that Europa League 1 now. But again, it's just his form seemed to drop off. Like those other players, like we said, Winks and that, they just kind of fallen off a cliff. And it's really strange to see how and why. And then you think to yourself again, it's that confidence. It's throughout the squad. A little bit of like bottling against obviously Arsenal and the Europa League kind of highlighted that again. Those players never seeming to step up at the right time. They just kind of fold under pressure.
Yeah, and I was speaking to someone recently. They made a very, very similar point about like every player in the Spurs team, they have quality. Like to get to the level that they're at, to be their national players, they have quality, but it's about how they deal with pressure, how they deal with kind of stress in the football pitch. And Sissoko is one who of late just hasn't seemed to be able to do that. And I think there's no kind of doubt, there's no coincidence in the fact that the drop in form between Sissoko and Serge Aurier has almost been directly correlated. It's been a similar thing. I think it started with that penalty Serge Aurier gave away against Leicester earlier in the season, and then slowly but surely they both kind of became players that fans don't really want to see here. That comes from, look, the comments, Simon saying Sissoko needs to go, Mike Naylor saying Sissoko needs to go back to France, Adam as well saying love Sissoko but his time is done. Mike Naylor also saying Hollie talks well. If you like how Hollie sounds, make sure to go down and check out our channel. It will be linked in the description below. But like something I saw from Sissoko is that game against Aston Villa at the weekend. I posted this on Twitter before it was taken down for copyright. But it was Aston Villa kind of breaking forward last 5 minutes of the game. Ross Barkley has a shot edge of the box. Davinson Sanchez, Jaffa Tanganga, and Sergio Reguilon all threw themselves in front of the ball, and Sissoko kind of just dangled a leg out. And that for me kind of just showed he really has come full circle, coming from being that incredible player who'd fight for every ball to that one who just doesn't seem to care anymore. And he wasn't on the pitch very long. So I think for me, I do feel as though it could be the end of his career. Zark Sung Ji says Sissoko, I think it might be age. What do you think? Look, it is, I suppose, a possibility as well. I suppose, has been a player who depends on his physicality and his kind of physical attributes. But I think that is, you can use that to excuse some kind of drop in form. But when it's purely down to attitude, I don't think there's too much defending Moussa Sissoko there. Before we go on to some potential incomings, there's one other player I want to touch on, Hollie, and that is Tanguy Ndombele. Incredible footballer, one of our best players this season. But the question I want to ask is, if a big team comes in for him this summer, I'm talking like the PSG, Barcelona, do you think he spent enough time at the club or has enough love for the club that he will be able to turn down a big move from loyalty? Or do you think we are running the risk of potentially losing him?
That is a very tough question.
Sorry.
That's all right. It's difficult because you see the bonds he's made with players at the moment at the team, and you sat there thinking, you're hoping that he'd stay. But again, in football, I sadly think it's all about money with some players. Now, he has settled very well, but again, you've also got to think to yourself, he's pushed really hard to get into this side, really well to prove a point. And every player, I think, in their career wants to play in the Premier League. So again, it's kind of where his head's at, whether he's worked so hard, he wants to stick at it and he wants to stay, or whether he just wants to go. But the way that he's come on, the fact that we obviously all kind of wrote him off when he joined because I called him Nadom Five Bellies, and he's now turned into this slim, amazing on the ball, and we all know he had the quality. It's just the fact that his fitness wasn't there. So I think it'd be a real disappointment if he was to go. I don't know if I'd sit here and blame him, but then I'd also think to myself, hang on a minute, mate, you've worked really hard to get into the Prem, and now you're just going to throw it all away for a big move. I think I don't know. I think it just depends on his sentiment, I think.
Yeah, I agree with you on that one. And look, it's almost a weird thing where he kind of similar to Sissoko for me, where he came in, there was a lot of hope, a lot of expectation, probably more with Ndombele than Sissoko. He had a really bad first season, and then every single fan kind of wrote him off. And I think it's weird that like the entire fan base is guilty of this, having not learned from our lesson that maybe give him a few seasons to settle in. But Ndombele has this season shown he's technically fantastic. The amount of times he's gotten the ball in tight areas and he'll spin past one player, roulette past another, and then like go put the ball through the legs of another. He really is technically outstanding. And it's interesting for me that he does seem to be working well, better kind of in that deeper role. But I kind of wonder, does he see himself maybe as a more attacking midfielder? And if a team comes in, could the deciding factor be them playing, we'll play you in that number 10. We'll give you more freedom. We'll let you be more attacking, because he is playing a quite pragmatic role for Spurs. And what is at times the way we do end up playing, it is kind of a defensive role. And I kind of worry perhaps he does want to be further up the pitch and kind of more contributing to those goals and assists. But like you say, incredible player. And look, I think I agree with you that if he did leave, I couldn't blame him too much, because the team he joined is a very, very different team to the one he's in now. And it's the same with Giovanni Lo Celso, because they came into a team who were just off the back of a Champions League final, who had Mauricio Pochettino going into this new kind of era, this new kind of the second part of his big project. And right now they're playing in a team with a manager a lot of people call a dinosaur, struggling to perform in the league, not really looking like a Champions League side. So I think if he did go, I wouldn't hold it against him, which is, there aren't many players you can say that about. I think Harry Kane is definitely one of them, but it's definitely a very weird feeling with him. But look, in terms of a few players that we could potentially bring in, one that a lot of Spurs fans are talking about is Marcel Sabitzer, who's going into the last year of his contract at RB Leipzig. He, for me, is a very, very similar player to Christian Eriksen, but can play kind of a bit more on the left as well. He's good on the counter-attack. He's good at set pieces. He can score, he can assist, and he is a technically sound player. If we were to bring in a midfielder, Hollie, do you think it's an attacking midfielder that we need, or would you look for a more kind of defensive one?
Definitely an attacking one. We've seen it so many times that we've been, not very creative going forward. You've seen at times that when we go on this counter-attack, we're always relying on two. And that is obviously Son and Kane. I know Ndombele, obviously, when he's not playing so deep, has that ability. But like you said, I think we do need someone that has that creative flair. And like we touched on tonight, we've got the likes of Skippy hopefully coming back if he chooses to come back to Spurs. So I think really spending money on someone like a defensive midfielder really isn't someone we need. We need someone that's going to give that attack, because like we said, we let Eriksen go and I don't think we ever replaced him. I mean, we've got Lo Celso, but I sadly haven't seen enough of him to even maybe compare the two. I think it's far too soon to see if Lo Celso is that replacement, but I don't think he is. So to bring in someone creative like Sabitzer, I think is really the way forward.
Yeah, I do agree with you, to be honest. I think even as we were speaking about with Skipp coming back in, we do have a lot of options back there, and we don't want to become a team that's kind of top heavy at the back with the likes of Sissoko and Ndombele, Højbjerg, if they do stay kind of defensive midfielders being the key part of the middle of the pitch for us. And Simon here says, what about Coutinho? I personally don't think Coutinho is a very realistic option, but if it was to happen, I would absolutely love it, because we came close to signing him on loan, not last season, but the season before. I think it was the day we signed Lo Celso and Sessegnon on deadline day. We almost had deals for Dybala and Coutinho as well, which I think is a level of player that Spurs fans want us to be able to attract. But ultimately, that's not going to be the case. And I was thinking about this last week, and I think I spoke about it in one of the transfer shows already. If there's a player like, let's take Coutinho, for example, if Spurs come in with an offer, what is there right now that attracts a player like that to Spurs? Because you can talk about the stadium and the facilities, but we're not in the Champions League. We're not winning trophies. We're not in a position where it looks like we're building for the future, where I think we're on the verge potentially of being in a free fall. Can you think of anything that could genuinely convince a player of that level to join Spurs?
I think the only player would probably be Kane and Son. That would probably be the only thing that would turn my head, the fact that you've got those two playing in the club, because we all know that Kane, for example, is world class. We all know that. So if I was going to be super optimistic, I think that would probably be the only thing that turns my head. But like you said, we're kind of dipping hard. I think as a club, we've just kind of rode the wave for too long. And now like I said, we're not proactive enough. We're kind of reactive, and we're getting to that stage again where we have to force ourselves to be reactive. So it's just a shame. But like you said, I don't think we're realistically going to turn many heads.
And that, I think, is the worst part about all of this, about this upcoming transfer. I know you can talk about the funds and the lack thereof, what players could potentially be leaving. But if we're not in a position to attract players that can improve our club, I think we're in a very, very dangerous situation. And as there was a comment there a little early on, I forget who said it, but when we don't know who our manager is going to be next season, it's hard to actually put into place any sort of plan to begin to target any sort of players. And I'd imagine it takes more than a couple of weeks to convince a player to make a move. I imagine the scouting and the contact will be initiated way before the window starts. That could be now. And if Spurs don't know what players we could be going after, I think we're in a very, very terrifying position. But look, we're on 44 likes and there's 115 people watching right now. So we need 6 of you, 6 people out there who haven't hit that like button. Please do that right now. It really helps us out and pushes the video out to many, many more people. And as well, if you are new to the channel and you want more of these videos, plus Tottenham watch-alongs, the Tottenham Fan Voice podcast, live reviews, any Spurs content you could want, do make sure to hit that subscribe button down below. And Hollie, before we do wrap it up, do you want to give a quick plug to your channel?
Yeah, so again, thanks for inviting me on. I love coming on as always. But you can literally just find me at my name, Hollie Agombar. Like I say all the time, I thought it'd be easier just to keep everything the same. Then I realised I had a really super complicated surname. But if you fancy coming over, just watching me talk Tottenham, so be it. So yeah, thanks again, Matt, for inviting me on.
Absolute pleasure, and thank you so much for your time. Look, I think if Pierre-Emile Højbjerg can say your name, I think anyone will be able to cope with that one. And Hollie is on the last push to 1,000 subscribers, so please do make sure to go over and help her out in her journey there and get her to the big 1K. And speaking of milestones, we are closing in on 1 million views. So please, if you haven't subscribed, make sure to do that. Share the channel out. Get your Spurs supporting friends, families, dogs, all the good stuff to come into the channel, and make sure they check out Hollie's as well. That is all for us today. Again, Hollie, thank you so much for your time, and to everybody who has joined over the last 40 or so minutes, thank you so much for watching.